got to fix that. So there's one issue. I've been having more this year than I've had any other year, and I think I understand why. But I have just broke another shear bolt on the auger, so I'm going to have to get in here and replace the shear bolt. I have a handful of them on hand, so it's not a big deal. It's just inconvenient having to stop. You know, I'm going along and all of a sudden I see that the right side of the snowblower is not pulling snow into the auger and kicking it out with the impeller. So I broke another shear bolt, and the driveways I do are all stone driveways, and usually you get into the little stones, things like that. It's not a big deal. You end up scattering it in the yard, and you deal with that in the spring. But some of the rocks I have in these two driveways are fairly big. So with that being said, I get into a rock, I break a shear bolt, and I got to stop, I got to replace a shear bolt, and it's kind of a drag, but it just comes with the territory with the stone driveway. So I pulled it into the barn and let it dry out a little bit and confirm my suspicions. I do have a broken shear bolt. So on the left side of the tractor, if you're sitting in the driver's seat, that's going to be the left side. Left side of the tractor, shear bolt is still where it needs to be, no problem there. But if you come over to what would be the right side of the tractor, this spins freely. That shouldn't happen. There's supposed to be a shear bolt that would pass through here, and that is going to lock the inner and the outer shafts together. So I've got this grade 2 zinc coated bolt. I'm going to use that temporarily. You should definitely use whatever John Deere supplies, the OEM shear bolt. That's going to be your best bet for protecting the snowblower. I don't have those. John Deere dealership's not open today. Ran to the local hardware store, got a handful of these. These will get me through. And this is grade 2. So you've got a few different grades you could potentially use: grade 2, grade 5, and grade 8. Did a little research online trying to figure out what the general consensus was on what grade bolt I should use for this application. Turns out it depends who you ask. Some people say they would never use anything but grade 2. Other people say, grade 2 is too soft, I'm going to use a grade 5. Although everybody seems to say don't use grade 8. That is just much too hard. I decided to use the softest option, even though they might break a little bit more frequently until I get the correct stuff in here. I would rather have it break prematurely than have it not break when it needs to. You know, you get into a rock or something and it slams this auger to a stop and it just halts it. You've still got all that momentum and inertia and torque built up in the drivetrain or drive line of this snowblower, and it wants that to go somewhere. That torque has to go somewhere. So what happens is the shear bolt breaks. You're inconvenienced for what, 5 minutes? I can replace this out in my driveway inside of 5 minutes, maybe less. Really an easy job to do. If you don't have a shear bolt that breaks easily, all that torque and inertia is transferred into the gearbox. I certainly don't want that to happen. I know for sure this gearbox is A, going to be very expensive, B, probably not something that's going to be readily available at my dealership. It would have to be ordered, and C, be a pain in the butt. I mean, at least a half a day to replace that, and it doesn't look like it would be a lot of fun. So I would much rather deal with these little shear bolts than a gearbox or other drivetrain issue. Whoa, that was crazy. One potential issue you could run into is if the shear bolt you're replacing, or the one that broke, is part of it might still be stuck in that hole. It's pretty rare that that happens. I have seen it, and usually if it happens, you can just get in there with a screwdriver or something and smack it to get it to pop out. So make sure the hole's clear, get everything lined up where you want it. And then I'm going to pass this one through the back and come out the front. That way I can get the nut on a little bit easier rather than trying to reach around the back. Nothing wrong with a good reach around, right? And we're done. Well, I think I'm in good shape. I got the shear bolt replaced. There was no drama, no weird stuff that happened. I simply had to just put the new shear bolt in and I'm good to go. I can get out and finish cleaning out those two driveways that are waiting for me. I have gotten pretty good at replacing the shear bolts. Unfortunately, the driveways that I clear are stone driveways, and there's some bigger stone, and whenever I get into some of that, I try not to. I try to keep it up high enough, and I have these shoes down a little bit farther. I still once in a while get a rock that comes in and it'll break the shear bolt. Always on the auger. I've never had the impeller get a broken shear bolt, which is good. I break them on the auger. It sucks. It makes me grouchy when it happens. I would rather not have to stop and brush off the snow and replace the shear bolt. But it's a lot better than having to replace a gearbox or some other major component on this snowblower, because I know it wouldn't be cheap and I know it would take a while. So I keep a couple shear bolts on the tractor with me, as well as the wrenches I need to replace them. There's a little compartment on the one fender. So I keep that stuff in there. Usually don't bring it into the barn to do that. I did today, just it's really cold out. Wanted to make a video, so I got it in here while it was nice and dry. I appreciate you taking the time to watch. If you're not already a subscriber and you like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. As always, be safe and enjoy the rest of your day.